Join me as we break down the final injury updates for week 8 of fantasy football. And after this video, of course, you're going to know who is in, who is out, who you got to check on Sunday morning, including some defensive players for extra value. But we're also going to talk about who's going to benefit the most from these injuries, including a couple players you can add off the waiver wire. Today, we're going to work from positive to negative, from in players like Lamar Jackson to questionable and probably going to play like DeAndre Swift, questionable, but you really got to check on this player like Matthew Golden, to our out players like AJ Brown and the impact of each. Welcome into No BS Fantasy Football. If you like this straightforward injury updates video and you want to get it every single week, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. And like we talked about, we're going to start with those in players. And starting off, Lamar Jackson is back. This should be a huge game for him and the Ravens because Roquan Smith of the Ravens is also back for this game. He's on the defensive side of the ball. That is huge for that side that has been severely injured and severely struggling. Look for the Ravens players like Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely should be back after the bye week in more capacity, getting more involved, coming back from his injury. This should be a coming out game, I think, for the Ravens against a Bears team that does have some injuries on their side of the ball. Jalen Waddle is officially in, but I'm personally going to bench him. He's facing AJ Terrell of the Atlanta Falcons, who has been shutting down his opponents. So even though Waddle is in with the offensive struggles of the Dolphins, I'm going to bench him. Josh Jacobs is officially in. Definitely a start against a Steelers defense that let Chase Brown run all over them last week. Egbuka is also playing, another week removed from his injury. And with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin out, he's definitely a must start. Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin are back for this game against the Chiefs. And this one I want to talk about a little bit more than some of the others because this Chiefs team is looking pretty unbeatable at this point. The Chiefs, their defense is amazing because their offense is just driving down the field. Nobody can stop them with Rashee Rice back, with Xavier Worthy back, with everybody healthy on this offense. Patrick Mahomes is unlocked, looking like he's going towards an MVP. And I'm going to say that this game with a backup quarterback, because Jaden Daniels, spoiler alert, he's in the out section of today's video. I'm probably going to try to bench both these wide receivers, Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel. Terry McLaurin himself is going up against Noel Williams, who's been one of the best corners denying fantasy points. So even though both these guys are playing with this game circumstance, I know they're going to have to pass, but last week, according to the research I did, the Raiders ran the second least plays of all time, 30 plays. Only the Browns in 1999 ran less plays. They were playing the Steelers. Chiefs team is playing out of their mind on offense and defense. I don't really want any part of this Commanders offense. Jumping to the questionable and likely to play players, we're starting with David Njoku. And this is huge for the Browns because the Patriots defense, they are great against wide receivers. They are great against running backs like Quidshad Junkins. I think he's still a start, but it's going to be tough sledding against this Patriots defense. So the tight ends, they are going to have to step up. Njoku and Fannin, I think both okay starts. We do have a waiver wire tight end you may even want to consider over Njoku. I'm actually starting him in the Walter Picks 32-man league this week. I kind of have to because my team is decimated with injuries. But we do have a waiver wire tight end as well. But David Njoku, I'm probably going to start him in this game, especially if you don't have better options. It's really only going to be the tight ends who are going to be able to move the ball this week. This one doesn't matter too much for fantasy football, but Michael Penix Jr. is expected to play. I mean, Kirk Cousins would be the backup, amazing backup, probably the best backup possible in the entire league. So if he doesn't play, you can still count on the Falcons offense to do great. Some great news here for DeAndre Swift. He's on the right side of questionable. So definitely check in before the game, but it looks like he's going to play. And that is huge news because he's been dominant since the Bears bye week in week 5. Now you see the Ravens have been awful against running backs, but keep in mind that Lamar Jackson should be back. They should have some defensive players back as well, which could force a little bit more passing out of this Bears team. So I'm going to be starting most of my Bears players. Your Caleb Williams, he's kind of an iffy start for me just because he had such a down week last week. But Rome Odunze, he's going to need to be out there. DeAndre Swift, definitely a start, but I would lower your expectations a little bit. Look at the 31. You're like, well, that's an amazing schedule, but it may not be as good as it's been these last 2 weeks. The other note for DeAndre Swift, this is a bonus. This is why you want to hit that like and subscribe because most people are not looking at this yet. Look at his playoff schedule facing Cleveland, Green Bay, and the 49ers. Pretty difficult the rest of the season. So if he does have a good game this week or maybe next week against Cincinnati, I would look to trade Swift away for someone with an easier playoff schedule. Breece Hall and Mason Taylor are questionable but likely to play for the Jets. And that's big news for this offense that's missing Garrett Wilson. I don't know who's going to start at the quarterback position. This team is an absolute shambles. So I see the 32. That's obviously amazing. I'm looking at the matchup against the Bengals, obviously amazing. But with the way Joe Flacco's playing in this offense, I'm a little bit worried about the run game. He's going to certainly need some receptions, and he only had 2 last week. That's probably not going to be good enough against this Bengals team because this offense without Garrett Wilson, they're just going to stack the box. They don't really have any other options. It's stop Breece Hall. That's really the only thing you have to do to pretty much guarantee a win in this game for the Bengals. So I'm not rushing him in. I know other people are like, look at the matchup, just start him. But if you have other good options, I may consider them this week because this Jets offense, they may not even score a touchdown. On the Buccaneers defense, Vita Vea is questionable. And most pages are not going to talk about this, but it would be a huge boost for these Saints players if he was to miss this game. So if you've got Alvin Kamara and you're not sure, should I start him or sit him, come back and see if Vita Vea is playing or not, because if he misses this game, you have to lock Alvin Kamara into your lineup. Jumping to the wrong side of questionable, then we're going to get to the key out players, including some defensive players, get to some of those waiver ads as well. But Tyler Algier, one of the players you have to check on before tomorrow's game. And unfortunately, this is like the worst game for him to be questionable because Miami could be a sneaky start for a backup. Because honestly, with the way Bijan Robinson is playing, he'd go for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half. And you give Tyler Algier like 20 carries in the second half of this game. But being questionable, this is a player they absolutely need. He is a key part of this team. He's a great change of pace, great power back, between the tackles back. So if he's questionable and they have a huge lead, they may also sit him on your bench. So definitely not playing him this week. The only thing I want to call out here, this could help Bijan have an even more insane week. So maybe great for DFS lineups. Now to the one that really matters for fantasy football, Matthew Golden. This is extremely unfortunate because he had a great matchup against Jalen Ramsey. He may or may not play, but with how he's been playing lately, I don't know if he's earned that right to wait for this guy. He's probably not worth waiting for. You probably have someone you want to lock in just in case he does miss this game. But I will say, if you can add someone like Christian Watson off the waiver wire, if you have Romeo Doubs on your bench and you're kind of waiting to see, that is the situation where you can definitely wait. Because if he plays, I'm locking him into lineups. But if he doesn't play, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, great starts. Moving on to the out players, and more importantly, who's going to benefit most from these players being out, including some waiver ads. We're going to start right there with Julian Hill being out for the Dolphins. Maybe not the most exciting, most important, but Darren Waller is also out. That means Tanner Conner is stepping up. And when we think with Jalen Waddle being covered by AJ Terrell, they have to pass to somebody. And Tua is struggling down the field. So I think Tanner Conner could actually be somewhat of a sneaky start who's absolutely free off the waiver wire. Bryce Young is listed as doubtful, but he's not playing this game. That's probably an upgrade for Ted McMillan, who does have a little bit of a tougher matchup. I like Rico Dowdle a lot in this spot as well. I know he's been splitting carries with Chuba Hubbard, but he still got 17 carries last week and 2 targets. That is enough volume to have a great game. So this may actually be an upgrade for the Panthers offense. Cole Kmet is out for the Bears. This could give Colston Loveland some additional opportunities. It will certainly give him additional steps. I don't know if I'm going to force Loveland in my lineup, but hopefully we see that breakout and he can continue that throughout the season. And we do see a pretty good schedule in the playoffs. They do face Cleveland, but then Green Bay and San Francisco. We looked at the schedule earlier for DeAndre Swift. Really tough for the running backs, but not nearly as bad for the tight ends. So what I'd really like to see is Colston Loveland break out in this game so we can start trusting him. But I'm not going to start him yet, but definitely watch out here, and it's a huge opportunity for him to establish himself in this offense. The Bears defense is also missing some key players. So your Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, they certainly are gaining a boost with some of the coverage options out for this game. AJ Brown is out for this game, meaning Devonta Smith, maybe one of the starts of the week. Great for DFS lineups, but you also have Jahan Dotson, and I really like Dallas Goedert. If you're not starting Dallas Goedert for your tight end, you may even want to start him as a flex this week because with AJ Brown out, they're going to need some of those passing options, and Goddard's been amazing in the red zone. So taking out one of the best red zone targets like AJ Brown could be even better for Goddard. Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall are again out for this game, but Kendrick Bourne, I do want to mention him because last week he was covered by AJ Terrell. So if you're like, oh, he's fallen off, he's not valuable, he is valuable. Last week he just had one of the most difficult matchup. So if you were starting Kendrick Bourne before, or you were discouraged by his matchup last week, you can plug him back into your lineup. Nico Collins is out for the Texans. You really could go with any of these wide receivers. It's really kind of a toss-up. I like Jalen Noel. He had some pretty decent target share in the last game. That's why I like him a little bit more, but any of these wide receivers could absolutely be a great start. So if you're in a tough situation, add one of these Houston wide receivers. I bet one of them is on the waiver wire because any one of them could have a good week. One more defensive player who's out for their team. By the way, if you're liking these comprehensive breakdowns, including defensive players, hit that like and subscribe and drop any start-sit questions you have down in the comments. I'm going to be trying to answer every single one before Sunday. And while you're doing that, let's talk Sauce Gardner. I know some people maybe worried a little bit about Jamar Chase, maybe a little bit about T. Higgins with Sauce Gardner, but he is out for this game, furthering the issues that we talked about Breece Hall. The Jets are not going to be able to afford to run. They are going to need to pass, and they're a team that cannot pass. It's just going to be a disaster for the Jets, especially with their top coverage guy out against a very powerful Bengals offense. Bucky Irving is out again, meaning Rachaad White is a must start. The Titans defense already struggling, but they're missing L'Jarius Sneed, maybe their best coverage guy. They're missing Jeffrey Simmons, maybe the best player on this entire team, a run stopper. So guys like Josh Downs, guys that you may be on the flex bubble, kind of start or sit, I'm definitely starting in this game because everybody on this Colts offense is going to eat. And of course, we already talked about him. Jaden Daniels is out for the Monday night game. I mean, I'm not really excited about really any Commanders players. That is no BS fantasy football. Drop any of your start sit questions down in the comments. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate the support, and I'll see you in the next one.